Finding the right neighborhood in Richmond requires lots of practical research. How much are the HOA fees? Where's the nearest hospital? When do they pick up my trash? For just a few minutes though, I want you to stop being practical. Stop thinking about gutter guards and furnace filters and heat pumps, because today we're tackling a question that your practical brain may never ask. I'm Greg Somerville, a real estate agent here in Richmond, Virginia. I get to work with a lot of different kinds of buyers, accountants and artists, nurses and lawyers, investors and engineers. Different people look for different things in a house. I love the challenge of listening for those unique motivations so that I can serve each individual client well. If you're looking for a house in Richmond and think I might be able to help, send me a text or request a copy of my free Richmond home buying guide in the description below. I look forward to hearing all the specifics of what you're looking for here in Richmond. So what is the most beautiful neighborhood in Richmond? That's the question we're wrestling with today, and it's a tough one to answer because, as we've all been told...
Haven't you ever heard the phrase that beauty is in the eye of the beholder?
Yeah. I'm here at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. It contains over 50,000 works of art spanning 6,000 years of world history. Some of them are modern, some are primitive, some are priceless, some I wouldn't pay a nickel for. What I consider beautiful and what somebody else considers beautiful can be very different things. If that's true of artwork, then it's also true of neighborhoods, which is why instead of just picking one neighborhood based on my definition, I decided to pick my top 5, each of which embodies a different kind of beauty. So let's turn off that practical brain for a minute and let's look at some beautiful neighborhoods. I'm on Strawberry Street in the Fan. This classic district got its name because of the way that the streets fan out to the west from Belvedere Street. It's a residential neighborhood with homes built in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. So what makes the Fan beautiful? Its architecture, its spacious boulevard, and its parks. It has one of the longest intact stretches of Victorian architecture in the US. The neighborhood was developed as part of the City Beautiful movement, a turn-of-the-century trend in urban planning that believed beautification of neighborhoods would promote social order and civic virtue. Around the same time, former Confederates were seeking a way to honor those who had led their cause during the Civil War. A plan emerged for a grand avenue extending west, distinguished by a central grassy median and statues of Confederate leaders. Beginning in 2020, in response to the Black Lives Matter movement, those statues were removed, leaving only the sculpture of tennis great Arthur Ashe on Monument Avenue. The Fan hosts 2 popular events each spring. There's Easter on Parade, which is a chance to dress up in your Easter finery, wear an outlandish bonnet, and stroll past some of the most beautiful homes in Richmond. And then there's the UCrop's Monument Avenue 10K. Considered Richmond's biggest block party, it's also one of the biggest 10Ks in the US, with up to 20,000 participants. And if you don't want to come do the run, just come out and cheer. The Fan is interlaced with sidewalks, boutiques, hole-in-the-wall restaurants, and neighbors who enjoy saying hi. There's no better place in Richmond to walk your dog, take a jog, or just sit out in the median with a good book. Churchill ranks in the top 5 most beautiful neighborhoods because of its sweeping views of the city skyline and the river. Richmond actually got its name when the city's founder, William Byrd II, stood in this location looking out over the James River and realized how similar the view was to Richmond, England, where it overlooks the Thames River. This is where the city got its start in 1737. This is where Richmond's first church was built in 1741, St. John's Church, the site of Patrick Henry's unforgettable speech, "Give me liberty or give me death." You'll see different facets of the city from these 4 public Churchill parks. Jefferson Park has a fitness trail, a decorative fountain, and a bronze sculpture of a Richmond street entertainer named Mr. Smedley. Taylor's Hill Park has an extensive wall mural and a great view of the city. Chimborazo Park offers a 180-degree view of the skyline, a dog park, the National Battlefield Park headquarters, and a miniature sculpture of the Statue of Liberty. And Liberty Hill Park is perhaps the most popular of all the Churchill parks. It features a beautiful fountain and an open field, making it the perfect place for a sunset picnic or a coffee date. Check out Riverbend Roastery right around the corner. Richmond's oldest neighborhood is also one of its most beautiful. You are absolutely going to love this view. Beauty may not be the first word you think of when you think of Jackson Ward. It has a long, rich, inspiring, but tragic history. After the Civil War, it became a thriving African-American center of culture and business. It was known as America's Black Wall Street and the Harlem of the South. But it was brutalized during the Civil Rights era. Hundreds and hundreds of historic homes were torn down. The city's all-white leadership approved a plan to build Route I-95 right through the heart of Jackson Ward, cutting a block-wide canyon right through the historic center of the neighborhood. It suffered decades of decline after that. But during the past 25 years, the neighborhood has regained its reputation as a popular historic district, rivaling the Fan and Church Hill. Some of that revival is due to the Richmond mural project. Richmond became the city of murals in 2012 when Shane Pomajambo, owner of a DC-based art gallery called the Art Wino, chose Richmond for his mural project. Shane and his fellow artists set out to create 100 murals in 5 years. There are now over 150 murals in Richmond, with many of them located right here in historic Jackson Ward. This is the Bojangles mural, one of the first done in the Richmond mural project. It honors Luther Robinson, the famous Richmond-born dancer and vaudeville star known for his films with Shirley Temple. This mural celebrates Jackson Ward's financial history. In 1903, Maggie Walker, the nation's first female bank CEO, opened St. Luke Penny Savings Bank in this part of town. It became the nation's oldest continuously operated Black-owned bank. Artist Hamilton Glass led a team of Girls for a Change students from John Marshall High School to do this mural in 2017. After the death of George Floyd in 2020, Glass organized the Mending Walls Project to promote unity and dialogue throughout the city. Muralist Niels Westergaard is a graduate of VCU here in Richmond. You'll find his work all over the city, and he's in high demand overseas. This mural is of Michael Millions, a local Richmond rapper. These are just a few of the 19 murals scattered throughout Jackson Ward. They've helped spark the neighborhood's revival and definitely made it one of Richmond's most beautiful. Before we visit these last two beautiful neighborhoods, I just have to check and make sure nobody's getting practical on me. This isn't the time to think about the age of the roof or the water heater. Today we're focusing on that intangible quality of beauty that so often sets one neighborhood apart from another. If you have comments, I'd love to hear from you. And if you have questions about the Richmond real estate market, my number's on the screen. Feel free to text at any time. This is Windsor Farms, a masterpiece of urban design. Its story goes back 100 years. Soon after he inherited a farm from his father, a wealthy Richmond businessman, T.C. Williams Jr., had a dream. He envisioned a new neighborhood that would look like a traditional English village with architect-designed homes, open spaces, and sidewalks. After purchasing some adjacent properties, he hired John Nolan, a noted landscape architect and city planner. Together, they developed Windsor Farms, established in 1926. Williams marketed the neighborhood to Richmond's well-to-do, inviting them to move out of the crime and grime of city living without giving up modern conveniences like public water and sewer. Developed with the new automobile in mind, it has no pass-through streets. They wanted to minimize traffic from the beginning. As the crown jewel of his new neighborhood, Williams purchased Agecroft Hall, a 15th century Tudor mansion, and imported it piece by piece from the UK in the 1920s. It's the site of Richmond's annual Shakespeare Festival. Windsor Farms' leafy, winding streets are lined with colonial revival homes on generous lots. It has 11 common areas with 20 total acres that are open to residents and their guests. The community association enforces the covenants pretty strictly. You're not going to park your RV on the street and forget that dream of raising chickens or goats. But for those fortunate enough to live in this small, idyllic English village, that's a sacrifice they're willing to make. If you're like many who are considering a move to Richmond, the city's natural beauty is probably high on your list. If so, I think you're going to drool over Westover Hills. During its planning stage in the early 1920s, Westover Hills was marketed as Richmond's biggest residential development. And when the Boulevard Bridge, also known as the Nickel Bridge, was finished in 1925, construction took off and continued until 1960. It's easy to see why so many people flocked to this new neighborhood. Cozied up along the south bank of the river, it offers great water views for many of its residents. It's just a 2-minute trip across the bridge to Bird Park, Maymont, Dogwood Dell, and Carytown. And the iconic CSX Bridge that appears in so many images of Richmond is just a stone's throw upriver. But you won't find the same network of sidewalks that exists in the Fan. You have plenty of great options for getting your exercise. You can bike or run along Riverside Drive. There's hiking along the Buttermilk Trail, or you can cross the bridge to get over to the North Bank Trail on the other side. Or you can take your kayaks down to the Reedy Creek Put-In off of 42nd Street. The Westover Hills Neighborhood Association knows they have something special, and they work hard to maintain it. Every spring, a big group of volunteers comes out to pull weeds, spread mulch, and plant flowers along Westover Hills Boulevard. I have good friends who have lived in Westover Hills for over 30 years. Last July 4th, they invited my wife and me over to enjoy the fireworks. Their neighbor, who has a big yard overlooking the river, allows anybody to come and enjoy the show. Dozens of others were there along with us, bringing their camp chairs and their picnic blankets. Like little kids, we oohed and ahed over every fresh burst of color. It was a beautiful evening in a beautiful place. Well, we have visited 5 exceptional neighborhoods today, and there are plenty of others we could have included on our itinerary. Places like Brandermill, Ginter Park, the Highlands, Libyan Grove, or Wyndham. If you have personal favorites that should have been on the tour, let me know in the comments section below. And if you need any help exploring the Richmond real estate market, either the practical or the beautiful, reach out anytime.